Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. So, after blogging Spider-Man's latest MCU film, now would be a good time to talk about Iron Man again. Now, aside from his roles in the Avengers films, along with Captain America Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming, about 4 months ago, I blogged the first Iron Man movie, which was not only a great superhero film, but it was a fantastic start for the MCU, with amazing performances, great visual effects, awesome action sequences, and superb writing. But about 2 years later, after the release of The Incredible Hulk, Tony Stark got a second solo movie, which just happens to be the subject of my blog today. Released on May 7th, 2010, the movie is Iron Man 2. And now, on for the plot of the movie. With the world now aware that he is Iron Man, billionaire inventor Tony Stark faces pressure from all sides to share his technology with the military. He is reluctant to divulge the secrets of his armored suit, fearing the information will fall into the wrong hands. With Pepper Potts and Rhodes by his side, Tony must now forge new alliances and confront a new powerful enemy. So, what are my thoughts? Well, to me, this one is kind of a mixed bag for me. Yes, I know it's not as good as the first Iron Man, but it does have some good plot points. And to further explain what I mean, let's move on to Mustang notes. Following the critical and commercial success of Iron Man in May 2008, Marvel Studios announced and immediately got set to work on producing a sequel. In July 2009, Justin Theroux was hired to write the script, and Jon Favreau was signed on to return as director. Filming took place from April to July 2009, mostly in California, as in the first movie, except for a key sequence in Monaco, which is located on the French Riviera, a few kilometers west of Liguria, Italy. Unlike its predecessor, which mixed digital and practical effects, the sequel primarily relies on computer-generated imagery to create the Iron Man suits. Plus, after the movie was released, it grossed over $623.9 million at the worldwide box office, making it the 7th highest grossing film of 2010. Now, like the first film, I didn't see this movie when it was released in theaters at the time, mainly due to the fact that I was pretty busy with college work. But after renting the movie from Netflix and getting it on Blu-ray, I thought the most memorable moment in the movie was the Monaco Historic Grand Prix, which almost made me think of the Porto Corsa race in Cars 2. And I thought the Stark Expo scenes were neat too, despite the fact that I've never been to a real expo or a convention before. By the way, during the final battle at the expo, we get a cameo from a young Peter Parker about 5 years before getting bitten by a radioactive spider and becoming Spider-Man. As for the story, well, like I said earlier, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me due to the fact that I'm not really a big fan of the political scenes, like the Senate Armed Forces Committee hearing in which the US government demand that Stark hands his armored technology over for military application. And I didn't like the birthday party scene, which Tony believed would be his last before dying. And that's basically all I got for Mustang notes. So, let's move on to the cast. Our main protagonist, Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, is once again played by Robert Downey Jr., whom was in Weird Science, Tropic Thunder, Sherlock Holmes, the 2020 Doolittle movie, and just recently, he got to be in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. In this film, about 6 months after telling the press of his identity as Iron Man, Stark finds himself dying due to his own arc reactor poisoning his body, all while he was being challenged by Ivan Vanko, who attempted to destroy his legacy. After the Stark Expo incident, Tony reluctantly agreed to serve as a consultant for S.H.I.E.L.D., where he used his position to upgrade their technology while he began a relationship with Pepper Potts, before finally becoming an Avenger. To me, Tony may be a brilliant inventor, but I still find him to have some ups and downs, due to him still being a drug addict and having a very arrogant attitude. Plus, after meeting Nick Fury, Tony still feels hesitant about becoming an Avenger. Plus, I think the part where Tony got drunk during his birthday was his most stupidest moment ever. However, I thought his poisoning condition made me feel a bit of sympathy for his health, and I like that Tony strives to use his inventions in a more responsible and considerate way. Next, we come to Tony's love interest and the new CEO of Stark Industries, Virginia Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, whom was a young Wendy in Hook. As CEO, Pepper is given much more responsibility, and I find the relationship between her and Tony to be a real definite struggle. But fortunately, after Tony defeated Whiplash at the Stark Expo, both Potts and Stark finally admitted their attraction to each other, and they began a romantic relationship. Also to note, I think Pepper has a pretty nice friendship relationship with Natasha Romanoff. Next is James Rhodes, aka Rhodey, this time played by Don Cheadle, whom has been in Volcano, Disney's Mission to Mars, Hotel for Dogs, and Space Jam: A New Legacy. In this movie, with Iron Man's identity known, Rhodes finds himself under pressure from the United States Congress and the military to take possession of the armor for himself. However, as Stark's reckless behavior got even more worse, Rhodes had no choice but to take the Mark II before handing it over to the military, with Justin Hammer upgrading it with his new weapons to rebrand Rhodes as War Machine. However, just when War Machine was being presented to the world, Ivan Vanko returned and attacked the Stark Expo with an army of hammer drones as War Machine teamed up with Iron Man to bring him down, resulting in Rhodes keeping the armor for himself, despite Stark's continued objections. To me, like in the first movie, Rhodes is still supportive of Tony, and he generally enjoys being involved with his revelries. But he is sometimes annoyed by Stark's flippant and reckless behavior. Plus, Tony's refusal to relinquish his armors to the military places Rhodes in a difficult position, since he has to balance his responsibilities to his superiors and respect his friendship with Stark. Another character to talk about is S.H.I.E.L.D. spy Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, whom was in Lucy, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the 2016 Jungle Book remake, Illumination's Sing movies, 2017's Ghost in the Shell, and of course, Isle of Dogs. Now, believe it or not, this movie is actually Nat's debut appearance in the MCU, before joining the Avengers, as well as appearing in Captain America's second and third movies, and before getting her own solo film 2 years ago. In this film, Nat was sent undercover by S.H.I.E.L.D. into Stark Industries under the name Natalie Rushman to watch over Tony Stark due to the fear that he was dying. And during her mission, Nat assists Stark while defeating Ivan Vanko's terrorist plots against him. To me, Nat's role in this movie is pretty interesting. While portraying as Natalie Rushman, she seems friendly and flirtatious, but after she revealed her true identity to Tony, She seems serious, dark, level-headed, strong-willed, independent, and she has a deep perspective on the value of life. Also, I liked the scene where she gave Tony a shot of lithium dioxide, which postponed the effects of the arc reactor's radiation so that he could work on a cure. And I think her martial arts skills are pretty awesome. Next, we come to one of the film's antagonists, Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell, whom was in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Jerry Bruckheimer's G-Force, DreamWorks' Trolls World Tour, The Bad Guys, along with the one and only Ivan, and 2007's Joshua, which really gives me a bad name. Now, Hammer is a military contractor and the former CEO of Hammer Industries, who had formed a strong business rivalry with Stark Industries. Seeking to improve his own position and attack Tony Stark, Hammer had worked alongside former U.S. Senator and Hydra member Stern and attempted to damage the public's own view of Stark. However, this all backfired, and Hammer's own public image was highly damaged. Furious at Stark for this failure, Hammer then recruited Ivan Vanko, the convicted terrorist, to attempt to replicate Stark's arc reactor technology. But this backfired as well when Venko betrayed him, leading into Hammer then being incarcerated inside of Seagate Penitentiary for his involvement in Vanko's actions. Funny story, Sam Rockwell was originally considered for the role of Tony Stark in the first movie, and afterwards, he accepted the role of Justin Hammer without reading the script. He had never even heard of the character before he was contacted about the part, and was unaware that Hammer is an old Englishman in the comics. Also, Rockwell described his character as plucky comic relief, but he's got a little bit of an edge. Finally, we come to the movie's main villain, Ivan Vanko, aka Whiplash, played by Mickey Rourke, whom I only remember from Once Upon a Time in Mexico and Sin City. Venko was a Russian physicist and the son of the disgraced scientist Anton Vanko. When his father died penniless due to the actions of Howard Stark, Venko swore to seek revenge by targeting Tony, recreating an arc reactor based on his father's design, and designing an armor similar to Iron Man's. Venko attacked Stark in Monaco under the name of Whiplash. Though he was incarcerated, he was subsequently broken out and recruited by Justin Hammer in order to use his skills to create a functional advanced armor to compete with Stark's. But Venko repurposed the armors into the Hammer drones, hijacking them along with the Mark I War Machine armor in an attempt to kill Stark and destroy his legacy. He was defeated by the combined efforts of Iron Man and War Machine, following which he chose to end his life by initiating a self-destruct feature within his armor. Now, I find Venko to be an opportunistic manipulator and a master engineer. Plus, I think his electrified whips are extremely dangerous, as shown when he cut an entire car in half during the Monaco race. And now on to my final words. Overall, Iron Man 2 is not a great sequel, but it's not terrible either. Yes, I still do not like certain parts, like the political scenes, and I think Tony Stark's attitude does seem to have some ups and downs at times. However, on the positive side, I thought this film served as a decent origin story for War Machine. It was a badass MCU debut for Black Widow, and young Peter Parker's appearance was pretty surprising and interesting. Now, if only the MCU could give us their take on his origin. Oh, right. This will be on Disney Plus next year. Anyway, I also think the action sequences are thrilling and badass, and all the actors do great performances. So my rating for this movie will be a 70% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time as we look at the latest Ant-Man movie, which takes place in the quantum realm. Mustang Power.